Welcome to Real Herbalism Radio, show 200. Can you believe it? 200.
200 shows.
Yeah, today's show is recorded live at Eugene, Oregon at the River Road Studios. And today's show is also brought to you by the Herbal Nerd Society. And they're a great group of people that help us support us in doing the podcast that you're listening to, or the practicalherbalist.com website. And one of the cool things that you have received in the past as a Herbal Nerd Society member, for instance, mullein was the herb of the month in August.
Yeah.
And so just in August, there was only available to the Herbal Nerd Society members. There was antimicrobial properties of mullein. This is mullein, mucilage in mullein, and breathe deep with cough-reducing mullein. So 4 articles that were written special for the Herbal Nerd Society.
Because you're so special.
Right?
Thank you.
There you go. And now we have a new monthly pricing structure. It makes it a little easier for our bookkeeping department, but also helps to control the up and down of revenue coming in. If it's more of a solid, it makes it easier to make decisions. When we had the 2 different pricing structures, it was hard to know where we were doing, what we were at, and how we were, what was happening. So moving it to a month-to-month just seemed like a win-win for us anyway. So anything else you guys want to add about the awesome Herbal Nerd Society?
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks for supporting us, because that means that we get to continue doing what we're doing, and it feels less like an echo chamber, which I think podcasting feels like a lot. I know people are listening out there. We see numbers, but having people come back with, we love this, and here's how we support you, just feels warms the cockles of my heart.
And it being fall, and I'm just going to say it's fall. I know it hasn't been the equinox or whatever, but I know it's fall.
Okay.
Fall is coming.
Right. No, fall's here as far as I'm concerned.
All right.
So
get your pumpkin spice
with
going.
that being said, Sue, you're going to be somewhere special in October.
I have the honor of being part of the Herbal Nerd. Here I am. I'm part of that.
You are.
And additionally, I'm also at the Free Herbalism Project, which happens October 13th at Mount Pisgah Arboretum in Eugene, Oregon. And people can be there the whole time, 11 to 5. There'll be start off with a yoga walk. There are a yoga class and then 2 plant walks. And then Nicole Tuckles, and she's a person that we have interviewed before, and we're really excited to have her back. And then Doug Elliott is going to be there too. So, and the other thing is that Mason Hutchinson, who is one of the arrangers of this and many other projects, he's part of Herb Rally. He talked me into being the MC for this too.
Oh, all right.
So
y'all get a good chance to
don't throw tomatoes.
Sue. You get a good chance to meet Sue at the Free Herbalism Project.
Yep.
And if you haven't noticed, when Sue gets a little nervous, she gets real Texas.
That's right.
So if you want to hear her get Texas, come and watch her talk.
I'm just going to try to stay very calm and centered, and I'll bring a hanky to wipe my brow.
There you go. And a little fan.
I should bring a fan, because it can get hot there, and they will be recording it as always. So you can, if you don't have the opportunity to go, then you can listen to it later. But I will be recording my plant walk.
Yep.
We talked about that, and y'all will be able to hear that too.
Be fun.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, come on down, see the Free Herbalism Project, and go on a plant walk with Sue. It'll be fun.
Yep.
All right. Well, show 200. We've done 200 of these episodes.
It is amazing.
200 of these where we've sat down and talked with people or ourselves or with each other.
Talk to ourselves.
Not to ourselves, but to each other.
Yep.
And, this is interesting that it's coming at this point in the summer or in the fall, because it's
moving. Just at the transitional time, moving into fall.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And with that transitional time, we were talking prior to the show about what kind of herbs and things we deal with in that transition. What do we do?
Right. Yeah, I've noticed over this last summer, there's been a lot of transition, some of them quite large changes that have been happening in people's lives. It seems like a lot of people, like all around me.
Huge changes.
Yeah.
And they're concerned about changes that are happening. anyone that reads the newspaper notices how many changes are going on, and it is unnerving for some. It's also exciting. I'm really a big proponent of boring, but that's just me. So in order to deal with that change, you have to have changes in your life. Like
anytime there's that kind of change, there's things like grief and sorrow and fear that come up. And then there's excitement and sometimes an overzealous charge into the new, which exhausts people. I mean, and the process of change itself is exhausting. So there are a lot of good herbal allies that we can rely on.
What are your favorites?
There's so many. I like, one of the things I really find powerful is you clearing the air. So sage.
Sure.
And I use the sage that grows in my yard.
Garden sage.
Yeah, just garden sage.
Salvia officinalis.
And partly I use garden sage because it's local. Garden sage understands spiritually, as it were, what is happening in our locality and in my space. But it's also much more sustainable than asking another area of the country to give me herbs to clear my space. So I don't want to draw on white sage, even though white sage grows not that far away. You know, it's on my same coast at least.
Right.
I'd rather not draw on that because the people there need white sage. And with all the change that's going on and all the emotions that are flowing, we really need to be doing a lot of clearing.
Yeah. And it's so important to honor the plants that are struggling because of our presence and the things that our presence has inspired all this climate change, and owning up to that responsibility of what we as a culture done, even if we personally didn't have anything to do with it. We're acknowledging our part in a group, and being a responsible part of that is to just say, okay, this plant is in trouble because of things that the species that I represent. So I'm not gonna push it and collect it. Maybe a leaf or two, or if you need to, you don't have to stick everything in your mouth. You see, we're not toddlers.
Right. It's so true.
Sometimes you just take a picture or just, honor this space, be here now,
Well, and if you spend time with an actual, with a sage plant, whether it's white sage or common sage or whatever, if you take the time to just really be with that plant, then you can recall that energy no matter where you are.
Right.
And the spirit of sage will help you out. And so,
that's very true.
It's very practical.
I feel like it's so great to have an opportunity to be around people that are transitioning with their genders, because they often they'll change gender from he to she or she to he, or they use they. And I've always felt like plants are, to me, a they, because they are more of a group. The dandelion may have its own identity. I don't know. I'm not a dandelion. But when I see dandelions, I don't think about them individually. I think about them as part of a group, and the chemical properties they have and how they kind of change the meadow and the soil as a group. And that group thinking is really important for me when I'm making any kind of changes, rather than isolating and going into me, selfish little me, to talk about my interactions and the part that I play in teams and in families and in communities. So that reminder that people that are going through gender transition has helped me kind of honor plants and where they are too.
Yeah,
so
that makes sense.
Thank you, people, for sharing your wisdom. Some of it penetrates Sue's thick little skull, but
eventually, even water can wear through a rock. Right?
Yes, indeed. Yeah, I'm a boulder head, that's for sure. Yeah. You had talked about St. John's wort as a big
St. John's wort is a nice one. It's, on a physical level, it can help you with depression and things like that. And it can help you when you're stuck in a long-term pattern like chronic illness, like if you've had, pneumonia or something for a long time, and your body, you're mostly past it, but your body isn't quite getting that oomph of energy to get through and finish getting well. St. John's wort is really helpful for that. And it helps with all sorts of chronic conditions when you're at that point. But in a more spiritual sense, St. John's wort, as Maya Toll describes it, is like a light in the dark. It gathers up so much energy when it blooms at the summer solstice, at the height of the sun's power.
It's a bioremediator in the soul. And
and it's blooming, like I said, at the height of the sun's solar energy. So it's really strongly allied with sunshine and brightness and, fire, the energy to move through whatever it is that's happening around you. So when we start moving into transitional times or into the darker months of the year, St. John's wort, just a little, like a drop of it. You don't need a lot. Just a little bit of connection with that plant can help bring some sunshine back into your own thinking and help reinvigorate your own energy field, which will help your emotions clear and help you move more into a proactive, I guess you could say, or at least sunnier spot, more positive interactions with the changes that are happening around you.
Yeah, that's a good point. I found that my favorite times to gather St. John's wort is after we've had a hot spell and then it cools down and rains, or just cools down a bit. It seems like that gives the plant more of an opportunity to bring more of that water soluble constituent into its leaves and flowers. And then, I think people that have made St. John's wort oil, or they've made St. John's wort tincture, and they take the plant and stick it into whatever menstruum they've got. When they've had a time like that, it just turns bright red almost immediately.
Right.
And then when you have a super, super dry time where there hasn't been any cooling, then it'll kind of, just, you got to freeze it in order to open those cells and get out every little bit of it. But that's another transition in the weather that shows in the plants that we pick up.
Definitely. Yeah. How about you, Sue? What are some of your favorites?
Well, ashwagandha. We're going to have to do something about ashwagandha. I guess I'll have to write it. Oops, I bonked the table while we're recording, and somehow I didn't get a dirty glance, so that's really nice. I'm really bad at that. So ashwagandha is an Ayurvedic herb that has been in my life for well over a year and has helped me with a lot of the changes that I've been going through. I read a couple of research articles talking about how it works on our HPA axis, which is your hypothalamus, your pituitary gland, and your adrenal glands that communicate with each other. And when you're stressed, and they kind of it shuts things down. That's what its job is, so that you can concentrate on survival. But you have too many dramas, and then it just stays in that. And then you have people that are in perpetual crisis mode. Yeah. And ashwagandha is one of the many plants that help with reopening the HPA axis, so we can survive better even when it's not dramatic.
Yeah, and ashwagandha is one that traditionally in Ayurvedic practice is given to young men right at the beginning or onset of puberty, and take it for the rest of your life every day. And it's a good supportive herb for the male hormonal system. It is not necessarily bad for women.
No,
so certainly women can. Typically at that same time, women get shatavari instead, which helps with balancing the women's hormonal systems.
Shatavari, that's a wonderful plant. Do you know much about shatavari?
That's one that I've used often. It's
in what condition?
I've used it in root. It's the root. So, I usually myself use it in a decoction, and I'll take it I should take it every single day, but, I'm not good at consistency. So I might take it for 3 or 4 months.
Okay.
And then I'll forget to do the decoction for a couple of months, and then I'll pick it back up and do it again. But it's good for balancing, like I said, balancing feminine hormones. So especially when you're noticing the adolescent periods, where your hormones are swinging a lot, or moving into perimenopause, middle age, anywhere in the mid 30s on, women start to see more and more hormonal swings. And some women, like the ones who experience a lot of PMS type of symptoms, often are more sensitive in general, and shatavari is very good at supporting balance across the system. So it's a nice one, for helping to eliminate things like the insomnia and the rage and the emotional swings and the depression and the weight gain and, a lot of that stuff that's very linked to estrogen imbalances. So it's good for that. I have occasionally myself used both the two of them together. Ashwagandha focuses, as far as I can tell, a little bit more on helping the testosterone balance itself. And women need that as well.
Oh, sure. We got hormones, a galore throughout our system.
Yes. And for myself, what I've noticed is that women who have a harder time standing up for themselves, who struggle with not feeling like they are noticed or accepted or acknowledged, people who feel marginalized, men as well, of course. But when I'm looking at for women and for ashwagandha, I've noticed those are those types of women who are really struggling with that. They're the ones that kind of need to be able to be like a lion and roar. And I think of ashwagandha as being very connected to lion-like energy. So that it's a good one for those folks.
Sure. I mean, so women in leadership positions, my leadership positions have often been challenged by people that have a lot of mother issues, or and they would like to have me be put in my quote unquote place, so that they're making big decisions that they just don't have the context for, and they see it as a personal issue rather than a training or informational issue. And that's when we run into some trouble. And ashwagandha has been one of those that I've taken, so that say, it's between you and your therapist, sweetheart. But the way that you enter and work with this group has nothing to do with the personal feelings that you have about me.
Right.
So let's just step back and do more problem solving and critical thinking rather than just being a problem and critical.
Right.
Oh, those little stinkers.
So, some of the others that I like are ones that are good for helping to relax the nervous system, like lavender, helps ease tension. Lavender and rosemary together are a very nice combination for keeping your mind alive and everything moving, but getting yourself to relax at the same time.
That's a good point. I don't think I really used those two together. I've used rosemary on its own, and I've used it with St. John's wort in a salve, because the rosemary is good for the circulation. It helps bring the St. John's wort properties into whatever the issue might be. But tell me about putting lavender and rosemary together.
I found that using them together, the rosemary makes your nervous system, or makes you in general, alert. Your mind is alert.
Yeah, sure.
But alert doesn't necessarily mean on fire and hyper. Lavender helps you to be in a place of alert but relaxed.
Okay.
So when you're alert and you're relaxed, you can rest and digest and still enjoy life. Rest and digest doesn't mean you have to fall asleep. It just means not racing around like a crazy person, not feeling like you're being attacked, not being in the middle of arguments or having dramas.
Right.
So lavender can help the body relax, while rosemary allows the mind to stay alert. The two of them together can help you to ease tensions and solve the problems that you might be facing. So
I know that in the hotter months, people are drinking a lot more water. And one of the nice things is putting together putting some tincture of dandelion. It's got a lot of potassium, or tea of dandelion, and I've often thrown either some lavender or some lemon balm in there too.
That's a good one.
And it just feels calming and cooling. Hibiscus is a refrigerant that helps reduce, your body temperature issues. Just like when you take a big chunk of watermelon, bite into that, then that's also a refrigerant, and that helps cool you down. And hibiscus is one of those nice things to add to that. And when you're cool and calm, then you can sort your way through some of these changes that are happening so quickly.
Yeah, and that's actually a nice combination too, because a dandelion supports your liver function. And when we're going through transition or drama or stress of any sort, your liver does the bulk of the processing out of those cortisol-based hormones.
Right, sure.
It also works that way for women who have estrogen excesses. Estrogen and cortisol are both estrogen-based hormones. So your liver's doing all this work. Offering something like dandelion or bupleurum is another good one. Bupleurum is very strongly draining. And if you need to let stuff go, those are both really good ones for helping your liver processing, just get it out, get it done. Folks, and those can be kind of extreme, although when you're dealing with extreme circumstances, sometimes that's what you need. You can also look at something like a peony, either red or white peony.
Oh, I've only worked with white peony. Tell me more about that.
The white peony, both of them are good. They're circulation. They help circulate the liver, so they don't drain the energy from. So if you don't have excess amount of, if your liver is struggling and it's tired, especially like menopausal years or after you're done with, baby making and all of that, but your body just kind of feels tired. You're dealing with exhaustion, essentially. Sure. If you're in a state of exhaustion, you don't want to drain your energy. So that's where dandelion and bupleurum can be a little bit too strong. So then you would want something that will circulate that energy. So peony, red peony has more affinity, I think, if I remember correctly, specifically for dealing with more toxicity. So if you've had much more toxicity in your environment, then you'd want to do red peony. But as far as I've read, I've only worked personally with white peony because it's what I have accessible to me. But if you're choosing between them, I understand that it's not a huge difference in how they work. So you can work with what's available to you. Okay. But either way, it just helps give your liver the energy boost it needs to do its job. So in a state of exhaustion, you never want to drain anything. Right. Because there isn't a lot there. Yeah. You need to fortify. So peony can be added to other fortification types of stuff, drinks. It's sold as a root, so mostly decoctions.
Well, for fortifying, one of the things that I like having is because I work in a clinic and sometimes bathroom breaks or eating breaks or breaks in general just isn't possible.
Right. It's hard to get that. Yeah.
Right. So, and I think people that work in restaurants have the same thing. Having your basic needs taken care of. Maybe not. So the combination of nettle tea with some licorice in it, and licorice is so good at helping you with your blood sugar, and it's a nice thing to just keep your energy levels going. And then nettle, it's naturally sweet too, and then nettle is just, my gosh, it's like a vitamin pill.
Yes, and adding peony to that, if you did it as a decoction, so that you're really pulling out the licorice really well.
Right, sure.
Like in a crock pot decoction works just fine. Nettle, all the nutrients from nettle will be happy to deal with a decoction. And you could throw a little peony in there if exhaustion is part of what you're dealing with or high levels of stress. Right. And that would help. It'll help give your liver a little extra boost while you're tonifying.
One thing I haven't done is put those together as a tincture and just have it in my purse. So
I don't know if it would work as well as a tincture because a lot of the nutrients and minerals that you're wanting to extract from nettle aren't really.
They stay in the mark.
They're more water. Yeah. So if you did a tincture of it, I mean, you could maybe do a decoction and then add at least 30% alcohol at the end.
Oh, right.
So if you had, for instance, if you did a decoction that resulted in like 2 cups of liquid of tea, essentially. Yep. And I'd probably concentrate it a little bit myself. So get it down to 2 cups. Then at that point, I'd add probably about another half a cup or so of high proof alcohol. Right. Which would then preserve it. So it's not technically a tincture because the alcohol isn't what extracted, but it would do the job of preserving. And that way you can use it like a tincture. Yeah. Especially if you did concentrate it.
Well, I've made tinctures where instead of the water that you're supposed to add, you add the high proof alcohol, the 190 proof, and then you add water to it. Instead of the water, I've added a tea. Oh, so I could do nice do that and extract the licorice and the peony. You could do it in one. This is just for little old Sue, and then after I've added the alcohol, then add a nettle tea. That way I've got that in there, and then
I'm not sure because I don't know what the constituents are in peony. In Chinese medicine or traditional Chinese medicine, it's usually used in a decoction form, not in an alcohol extract.
Right.
So my guess is that you would probably want to do that one with your nettle, or you'd want to decoct that one rather than using it as a alcohol extraction.
Right. Yep.
For licorice, I don't know.
Yeah, I'll have to look into the properties of it and make sure that it would not just be nothing but water soluble. But I've used it as white peony as a tincture before, so we'll have to find out, herbalists.
Yeah. It could be. I know when I'm going through transitions, it's hard for me to remember to make like a daily tea. Sometimes as a challenge, just steeping herbs, remembering which ones to do, making a blend, all of that.
Yeah.
But throwing some roots into a crock pot and letting it simmer away for a day or two, dipping in when I want to.
Right. Yeah.
That works pretty well. It's convenient. And,
Yeah. I've had sometimes where I can think of one time where I was having a lunch with a person I really didn't want to have lunch with. They were posed a problem in my life, but this was a way of settling things. And as I'm chatting with them, I realized that I was starting to get a little tense. And so I just pulled up the tincture and put it in my water and chucked that down. Oh, all right. Just the celebration of that moment, like, okay, you've gone through quite a bit with this, and you've been nice and mellow, and here's your reminder that you were depleted a bit, and you need a little bit more extra so that you can continue to be strong.
Good job.
Thanks.
Good job. Yeah. Tinctures are nice that way.
Yeah, they're so portable.
Yeah. And then that's, one of the other things that is really important during transitional times, like you were saying before the show, is exercise and being able to bring a tincture to the gym instead of trying to carry a jug of, you're going to have your jug of water perhaps, but making tea before you go to the gym, if you're like me, you're not going to get it done.
Right.
But having a bottle of tincture that, you get done with your workout and
just a couple of squirts. Yeah. There you go.
Yeah.
That's good. And another nice thing about tincture is it's the reminder, drink your water.
Drink your water.
Yeah.
And
Yep. Or with oxymels, having a nice little water chaser there. It's kind of nice too.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Well, I'm very grateful to all of the herbs out there that have helped us through our tough times. And I know other people have their favorites and we haven't mentioned it.
Oh, yeah.
I want to remind listeners that many of the herbs that we have mentioned today are available in monographs by Candace and myself. And we have those sold on Amazon. So you can check that out if you're curious about it. We also, on our website, we have a lot of, you'll see in the show notes, lots of links to the things on our website. And there are things that they won't have links on it, but they're mentioned. And that means we're going to have to do a couple of articles about that. That's coming up. So there's always something new and exciting to learn about herbs. Is there anything else that you like to do in regards to sleep, perhaps, when it comes to transitions, Candace?
I have a couple of, it's good to have your sleep routine and do the exact same thing. Yeah. Same thing every single night, whatever it is you do, lights out at a certain time, your relaxing music, maybe before you go in. It's best to not, do your cell phones or screens within about a half hour.
Light.
Yeah. Sure. I think it's a half hour of going to sleep, all of that stuff.
Even if your phone goes to the amber color, you shouldn't do it.
It's still not good enough. Yeah.
It stimulates something in your cortex that you just, in your eyes, you just don't.
Right. And it's also, whatever it is, whatever the subject matter you're looking at is, it can also just get your nervous system moving and your mind moving. And you don't want them moving. You want them to slow down because you're going to sleep.
Yeah, exactly.
So but there's those things. I also like to use herbs before going to sleep. And I don't necessarily, especially if it's been stressful and in, a lot of transition, and especially a lot of emotions. Yeah. It's good to have some herbal allies before bed,
Yeah, that makes sense. Sure. Yeah. I like to there's a powdered magnesium citrate that I take.
That's a good one.
A half teaspoon of that with water. And then I feel that I have a window of time if you fall asleep when you start feeling groggy after taking that magnesium in your water, then you're going to be good.
Yeah.
But if you miss that window of time, like, you field a phone call or something like that, or you're not in bed by then, don't take more magnesium citrate, because one of the great things magnesium citrate does in larger amounts is it helps clean out your colon, which is not a nighttime activity. That's a waking activity.
Yeah. Yeah. If you take too much magnesium just before you go to bed, one of two things can happen. You may need to poo immediately, or you may need to poo after you've fallen asleep, which will then wake you up and give you a nice long period of not being asleep.
That's right.
Which can improve your insomnia. So if you want more insomnia,
if that's what you're looking for, it's like, gosh, I don't have enough insomnia in my life.
Right?
What could I do to inspire it?
So for most folks, the threshold is somewhere around between 200 and 300. I believe it's milligrams. I always forget what unit. But if you're getting like capsules of magnesium, you can look on it. Time-released style is a really good one if you want to make sure that you avoid that, because that usually has a balance of citrate and carbonate versions of magnesium. Carbonate takes longer for your body to take it in.
Right. Citrate is quick.
And citrate's quick. So that will give you more of the longer spread and the longer digestion time, which gives your muscles more time to use it. And it's the one I would recommend myself.
Yeah. And it is sold in a liquid form. If you go to a regular old pharmacy, they have magnesium citrate, and it's lemon flavored. And I'm using that term flavored very loosely. Yeah. But that's if you're going in for to have your colon checked, and that's what they have you drink. So now you have an idea of what we're talking about.
Right. Yeah. And for some folks who are particularly depleted, they might find that, going up to 500 milligrams a day is actually helpful, but I would be very careful about that. I would start
small.
A lot of the capsules come as 250 milligrams, even if the bottle says 500 milligram dose. You turn it over and look at the back. A lot of times it'll be 2 capsules to get that. Yeah. Most of the time you can get 250. So just take that and do that for several days and see if you feel you need more, if you're finding you have muscle cramps, or, your muscles are more, feeling strained and stressed and all of that sort of thing, or if you're having more insomnia.
Yep. Magnesium also lowers your blood pressure. So when you go into your doctor and you get your labs back, then that's something that they always take a look at. Is what your magnesium levels are, and that will influence your blood pressure too. And
it would be preferable to take a fairly steady amount of magnesium within about a week of having that blood pressure test done, so that you're on a steady, stable amount. It's not as wise. If you really want your doctor to have good numbers and give you good advice, don't be like, oh my gosh, I'm going into the doctor. I'm going to take like 750 milligrams of magnesium because I want to be really relaxed so my blood pressure's low. Yeah. No.
They're getting a standard amount. Yeah. And many times the providers in our clinic will also talk to people about how in different regions, the foods, for instance, in a place that there's a lot of rain, like we live in Oregon, for example, there's a lot of rain. So the soil is calcium and magnesium depleted. Right. So even if you're a gardener, you're going to find that you will need more magnesium, and magnesium-rich foods. You can get a lot of calcium in your diet, but unless you have magnesium, you're not going to be able to assimilate it. Right. So to make it bioavailable, you need the magnesium in it. And I have found that most people have plenty of calcium in their diet generally as a general rule. But the magnesium is it's tougher to get, and it goes out of your system during stressful times too. Yeah. So, and the vitamin B's as well. Right. Yeah. Those are important, B12 and things like that. Yeah. So besides nutrients, I often add things like when it's stressful and I'm dealing with insomnia, I'll add things like passion flower. Oh gosh, that's valerian. Such a good one. Yeah, passion flower and valerian are one of my favorite pairings, but Tulsi is another one that can be for some people. Tulsi is a little bit energizing, so you kind of want to see, but it's very calming to the system. So for me, I'm like, wow, when it's stress,
Tulsi is a good one because it'll help your nervous system just calm down, which makes it a lot easier to sleep.
I love the smell of Tulsi. It just calms me, that's for sure. I love it. I love growing it. Love everything about it. It's my buddy.
Yeah.
Valerian. My cats love valerian, and I like the flowers, but I do not care for the taste of the root.
I happen to like it a lot.
Yes, you like it.
But it is one that's particularly good for my system. So.
Yep. Know yourself.
Yep.
That's the other part of it.
Yep.
Well, we're going to wrap up this podcast, and thank you for tuning in to our show.
Oh,
number 200. What is another one?
Folks. Yeah, we need to tell folks that about our new format.
Oh, the new format. Okay.
So one of the things that we've been going through transitions, all of us, and we're all tired. Really, when it comes down to it, we're all tired, and we've been looking at what are the things that we tell, our friends, our family, our clients about how to take care of yourself well during transitional times. And one of them is reduce stress and make space in your life as much as possible. So we've been doing for a couple of years now, we've been doing weekly podcasts, and we decided that we are going to go to 2 podcasts a month. So pretty much a bi-weekly schedule.
Right.
And to help make a little bit of space for us to breathe a little bit more in between. Each podcast takes time, preparation for the podcast, the recording, and then there's time afterwards with writing the show notes, doing the producing, and all the stuff that we need to do. So by loosening it up a little bit, that'll give us, each of us, a little bit of more space to deal with all the stuff we're dealing with in other areas of life.
Yep. And we're kind of barely scratching it through with the amount of money that we make. So if you want to help us, that we're able to budget more time, and we physically need to budget it. So please take a minute to look at our website, and the Herbal Nerd Society is how we are supported. So check that out. We would really appreciate it. And don't forget that we have other things that are available. We have books and different things like that. And that support to us means all the difference. And then we can give more support to you. So.
All right. Remember to review us on iTunes. Give us a little shout out. You can follow us on the social networks, Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest. Just look for the search term Practical Herbalist, and I'm sure we'll pop up. So with that, put an herb on it. The statements made about herbs and products on this podcast have not been evaluated by the United States Food and Drug Administration, FDA, and are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent disease. All information provided on this podcast or any affiliated websites is for informational purposes only and is not intended as a substitute for advice from your physician or other healthcare professional. You should not use the information on this podcast and its affiliated websites for a diagnosis or treatment of any health problem. Always consult with a healthcare professional before starting any new vitamins, supplements, diet, or exercise program before taking any medication, or if you have or suspect you might have a health problem. Any testimonials, questions, or case studies are based on individual results and do not constitute a guarantee that you will achieve the same results.